After 15 years of silence, Justine Musk stands in the crowd at SpaceX's biggest rocket launch, clutching a small wrapped box. Inside are letters from the son Elon has never let their children know about, their first baby who lived for only 10 weeks, but whose memory could either heal their broken family or destroy it forever. She has one chance to make Elon remember the promise he made 17 years ago. One chance to give their 5 living children the brother they never knew they had. One chance to prove that love doesn't die when someone goes to heaven. It just finds new ways to reach the stars. But when she removes her sunglasses and security recognizes her face, everything changes. The man who dreams of taking humanity to Mars is about to discover that the most important journey isn't to another planet. It's back to the family he left behind on Earth. Some secrets are too big to keep forever. Some promises are too important to break. And sometimes the person who can fix your heart is the same person you walked away from years ago. What Justine does next will change everything Elon believes about love, loss, and what it really means to reach for the stars. The hot Texas sun beat down on thousands of people gathered in Boca Chica. They had come from all over the world to see history happen. Today, March 15, 2025, SpaceX would test their biggest rocket ever. The rocket that would take the first families to Mars. Elon Musk stood on the tall white stage. His black shirt was already getting sweaty in the heat, but his eyes sparkled with excitement. Behind him, the massive silver rocket reached toward the blue sky like a giant metal finger pointing at the stars. Today we take another step toward making life multiplanetary. Elon called into his microphone. The crowd cheered so loud that birds flew away from nearby trees. 10-year-old Maya Rodriguez held her dad's hand tightly. She had begged her parents to drive all the way from San Antonio to see this. "Dad, is that really going to Mars?" she whispered. "Maybe not today," her father said, "but soon, very soon." Near the front of the crowd, in the special VIP section, security guard Mike Chen noticed something strange. A woman in a simple black dress and dark sunglasses was trying to push through the barriers. She moved quietly, not making a fuss, but she kept getting closer to the stage. "Ma'am, I need to see your pass," Mike said, stepping in front of her. The woman stopped. She was about 50 years old, with blonde hair pulled back in a neat ponytail. For a moment she just stood there. Then slowly she reached up and took off her sunglasses. Mike's mouth fell open. He had worked security for SpaceX for 5 years. He had seen pictures of this woman in old magazines and news stories. But she had never ever come to any of Elon's events. "Justine," he whispered. "Hello, Mike," she said softly. "I need to speak with him." "Mrs. Musk. I mean," Mike stumbled over his words. Everyone knew Elon and Justine had gotten divorced many years ago. She never came to his rocket launches, or car shows, or any of his big events. "It's about Nevada," Justine said quietly. Mike's face went white. He had heard that name whispered in the SpaceX offices before, but only in very quiet conversations that stopped when other people walked by. Nevada was a name that made everyone uncomfortable. "I need to call my boss," Mike said, reaching for his radio. On stage, Elon kept talking about the future. "Imagine your children playing in Martian gardens," he said. "Imagine schools and parks and birthday parties on a whole new world." The crowd loved every word. They took pictures and videos. They cheered and clapped. A group of kids held up a sign that said, "Take us to Mars, Mr. Musk." But 50 feet away, behind the security barriers, Justine Musk stood holding a small wrapped box. Her hands shook just a little as she watched her ex-husband talk about families and futures and dreams coming true. Inside that box was something that would change everything. Something she had been keeping secret for 17 long years. Something that would finally bring the truth about Nevada back into the light. Mike's radio crackled. "What do you mean, Justine Musk?" came a voice through the speaker. "She's here," Mike whispered. "She says she needs to talk to him about Nevada." The radio went quiet for a long moment. Meanwhile, Elon was getting more excited on stage. He pointed at the rocket behind him. "This beautiful machine will carry 36 people to Mars on each trip," he said. "Families will stay together. Children will grow up knowing 2 planets as home. We're not just building rockets. We're building bridges between worlds." A little girl in the front row raised her hand. Elon saw her and smiled. "Yes? "Mr. Musk, will there be playground on Mars?" she asked. Elon's face lit up. "The best playgrounds ever," he said. "Because everything weighs less on Mars. Kids will be able to jump 3 times higher than on Earth." The crowd laughed and cheered again. But in the VIP section, something else was happening. Mike's boss, Sarah Chen, had arrived. She was Elon's personal assistant and had worked for him for 8 years. She knew all his secrets, all his schedules, and all the people he did and didn't want to see. Sarah looked at Justine for a long moment. The two women had met only a few times, always at formal events, always polite but distant. "Mrs. Musk," Sarah said carefully. "It's just Justine now," Justine replied. "I know this is unusual. I know he doesn't expect me to be here. But Sarah, this is important. It's about Nevada." Sarah's face changed. She glanced toward the stage where Elon was still talking to the excited crowd. Then she looked back at Justine. "How long has it been since you two spoke?" Sarah asked. 2 years, Justine said. "Not since Vivian's name change was in the news. He called to ask if I had talked to any reporters." "And had you?" "No. I never talked to reporters about our family." Justine shifted the small box from one hand to the other. "But some things are more important than keeping quiet." Sarah pulled out her phone. "I need to tell him you're here." "But Justine, he's in the middle of the biggest presentation of his career. Can this wait until after?" "It's waited 17 years already," Justine said. "What's another hour?" "Okay. Stay here. Don't move. I'll be right back." Sarah hurried toward the stage, her high heels clicking on the concrete. She had to time this perfectly. Elon was almost finished with his speech. In a few minutes he would take questions from reporters, then do interviews, then meet with important investors. But she could see that Justine wasn't going to leave. And when Justine Musk showed up somewhere after staying away for years, it usually meant something big was about to happen. On stage, Elon was wrapping up his talk. "The rocket you see behind me will launch its first test flight in 6 months," he said. "And if all goes well, the first human crew will follow 6 months after that. We are so close to making this dream real." He spread his arms wide and looked up at the sky. "Mars is waiting for us. The future is waiting for us. Let's go make it happen." The crowd exploded in cheers. People threw their hats in the air. Kids jumped up and down. Everyone felt like they were part of something amazing. Elon smiled his biggest smile and waved with both hands. He looked happy and confident, and ready to take on the whole universe. He had no idea that his past was waiting for him just 50 feet away. He had no idea that in a few minutes, everything would change. He had no idea that the small box in Justine's hands contained something that would bring back memories he had spent years trying to forget. Sarah reached the side of the stage just as Elon finished speaking. She caught his eye and motioned for him to come over. "Great speech, boss," she said when he reached her. "The crowd loves the Mars plans." "Thanks," Elon said, wiping sweat from his forehead with a towel. "Did you see how excited that little girl got when I talked about Mars playgrounds? That's why we do this, Sarah. For kids like her." "Elon," Sarah said carefully, "we have a situation." "What kind of situation?" Elon asked, still smiling and waving at the crowd. "Justine is here?" Elon's smile froze on his face. His hands stopped waving. For a moment he looked like someone had hit him with a bolt of lightning. "What?" he whispered. "She's in the VIP section. She says she needs to talk to you about Nevada." The towel fell from Elon's hand. His face went completely white. All the color drained out of it, like water running out of a sink. "Nevada?" he repeated quietly. "Yes." Elon looked out at the crowd, but he wasn't really seeing them anymore. His mind was racing backward through time, to hospital rooms and tiny coffins and promises he had made and broken. "How long has she been here?" he asked. "About 20 minutes. She's been waiting very patiently." Elon closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them again, they looked scared and sad and older than they had just minutes before. "Okay," he said quietly. "Tell the reporters I need 15 minutes. Then bring her backstage." As Sarah hurried away, Elon stood alone at the edge of the stage. The crowd was still cheering for him, still excited about Mars and rockets in the future. But all he could think about was the past. All he could think about was a name he hadn't said out loud in years. Nevada. His first son. The baby who had lived for only 10 weeks but had changed everything forever. What could Justine possibly want to tell him about Nevada after all this time? And why now? On what should have been one of the happiest days of his life, Elon's hands began to shake as he realized he was about to find out. Los Angeles, California, September. The lawyer's office was cold and gray. Elon sat at one end of a long wooden table, signing papers with a black pen. Justine sat at the other end, doing the same thing. Between them were stacks of documents that would end their marriage forever. The children will live with Mr. Musk, the lawyer said in a flat voice. Mrs. Musk will have visits every other weekend and Wednesday evenings. Justine's pen stopped moving. She looked up at Elon, but he wouldn't look back at her. What about Nevada's things? She asked quietly. His baby blanket. His little stuffed elephant. Elon's jaw got tight. We talked about this, Justine. The boys don't need to see those things. It will just make them sad. But Nevada was their brother, Justine said. Griffin and Xavier are only 6 years old. Damien, Saxon and Kai are only 4. They should know they had an older brother. They're too young, Elon replied, still not looking at her. Maybe when they get older. But older never came. In the years that followed, Elon threw himself into his work like a man running from a fire. Tesla was struggling to build electric cars that people actually wanted to buy. SpaceX was trying to send rockets to space without blowing them up. Every day brought new problems to solve, new meetings to attend, new interviews to give. When reporters asked about his personal life, Elon always changed the subject back to rockets and cars and the future. When they asked about his children, he smiled and said they were doing great in school. He never mentioned that he had 6 sons, not 5. He never talked about the baby who had lived for 10 weeks and then went to sleep forever. Justine moved to a small house in Malibu, near the ocean. She could hear waves crashing outside her bedroom window at night. The sound helped her fall asleep when the sadness felt too heavy. She tried to write books again, the way she had before she got married. But every story she started seemed to turn into a story about a mother who had lost a child. Every character she created seemed to be looking for someone they couldn't find. The boys came to visit her every other Wednesday and every other weekend. Just like the papers said, they were good kids, smart and funny and kind, just like their father. But there was always something missing when they all sat around her dinner table. Mom, why do you look sad sometimes when we're having fun? Griffin asked one day when he was 8 years old. I'm not sad, honey, Justine said, ruffling his dark hair. I'm just thinking. About what? Justine almost told him the truth. She almost said, about your brother Nevada, who would have been 6 years old now. About how much he would have loved playing with you and Xavier and the triplets. But she remembered Elon's words. Maybe when they get older. Just grown-up stuff, she said instead. Every New Year's Day, Nevada's birthday, Justine drove to the small cemetery in Beverly Hills, where her baby was buried. She brought white flowers because white had been Nevada's favorite color. Well, not really. 10-week-old babies don't have favorite colors, but his nursery had been white, and he had looked peaceful in his white wakelets. So white felt right. She would sit by his little grave marker and tell him about his brothers. Griffin wants to be a scientist like Daddy, she would say to the stone that read, Nevada Alexander Musk, our angel. Xavier is really good at reading. Damien makes everyone laugh. Saxon loves to take pictures of everything. And Kai draws the most beautiful pictures you've ever seen. Sometimes other people visited graves nearby. They would see her talking to the stone and look sad for her. But Justine didn't feel embarrassed. Nevada was still her son. Sons deserved to know what their brothers were doing, even if they lived in heaven now. The years went by like pages flipping in a calendar. Elon married a beautiful actress named Tallulah Riley. Then he divorced her. Then he married her again. Then he divorced her again. The newspapers wrote stories about all of it. He dated other famous people too. He had more children with different women. The world watched his every move and wrote about every person he loved. But through all of it, Nevada remained a secret. A name that was never mentioned in interviews or articles or social media posts. In 2016, something happened that broke Justine's heart all over again. Griffin and Xavier, now 14 years old, came to visit her one Wednesday evening. They seemed upset about something. Mom, Xavier said quietly. We saw an old article online today. It said you and Dad had another baby before us. A baby who died. Justine's breath caught in her throat. She looked at her twins, so tall now, almost as tall as she was, and saw confusion and hurt in their eyes. Is it true? Griffin asked. Did we have a brother? Justine wanted to tell them everything. She wanted to show them pictures of Nevada, to tell them how much she had loved him, to explain why she went to the cemetery every year. But she remembered her promise to Elon. Your father should be the one to talk to you about that, she said finally. But Elon never did. By 2020, all the boys were teenagers. They were smart and successful, just like their father. Griffin was accepted to Stanford University to study science. Xavier was writing beautiful poetry and thinking about changing colleges to study literature instead of engineering. But Xavier was also struggling with something else. Something that made Elon very uncomfortable. I think I might be transgender, Mom, Xavier told Justine one evening when he was 17. I think I might actually be a girl inside. Justine held her child close. Thank you for telling me, she said. I love you no matter what. I want to change my name to Vivian. Xavier continued, and I want to use she and her pronouns. Okay, Vivian, Justine said, trying out the new name. That's a beautiful name. But when Vivian tried to tell Elon the same thing, it didn't go as well. You're just confused, Elon said. This is just a phase. You'll grow out of it. It's not a phase, Dad, Vivian replied. This is who I am. No, Elon said firmly. You're my son Xavier. That's who you are. The fight that followed was terrible. Vivian stopped visiting Elon's house. She stopped answering his phone calls. When she turned 18, she legally changed her name to Vivian Wilson and cut off all contact with her father. The news stories about it made Justine cry for days. She could see how much pain both Elon and Vivian were in, but neither of them knew how to fix it. That's when Justine realized something important. The family she had tried to protect by keeping quiet about Nevada had fallen apart anyway. Her children were hurting, and they didn't even know they were missing a piece of their story, the piece that might help them understand why love was so precious and fragile. On December 1st, 2024, Justine made a phone call she had been thinking about for months. SpaceX Public Relations, this is Kelly speaking. Hi Kelly, this is Justine Musk. I need to know when Elon's next big public event is. Mrs. Musk? Oh wow, hi. Let me check. He has the big Starship test announcement in Boca Chica on March 15th. It's gonna be huge. They're expecting thousands of people. Perfect, Justine said. I need to see him there. It's about Nevada. There was silence on the phone. Ma'am, I'm not sure I understand. You don't need to understand, Justine said gently. Just make sure security knows I might be there. And Kelly? Yes, ma'am? It's time he remembered that some promises are more important than keeping quiet. Boca Chica, Texas. March 15th. The crowd was still cheering as Elon walked slowly toward the VIP section. Each step felt heavy, like he was walking through thick mud instead of on solid ground. Sarah walked beside him, but she didn't say anything. She could see that her boss was somewhere else in his mind, traveling back through years he usually tried to forget. The security barriers opened for them like magic doors. Mike Chen stepped aside as Elon approached, his eyes full of worry and curiosity. Everyone who worked for SpaceX had heard whispers about Nevada over the years, but no one ever talked about it out loud. It was like a ghost story that everyone knew but no one wanted to tell. And there she was. Justine stood near a small table covered with SpaceX brochures and water bottles. She looked older than the last time he had seen her, but not in a bad way. Her blonde hair had some gray streaks now, and there were lines around her eyes that hadn't been there before, but she still stood straight and tall, the way she always had when she had something important to say. Hello, Elon, she said softly. For a moment, he couldn't speak. His throat felt closed up, like when you're about to cry but you're trying not to. He remembered the last time they had talked, a quick phone call about reporters asking questions about Vivian. They had both been polite but distant, like strangers making small talk about the weather. Justin, he finally managed to say. His voice came out rougher than he wanted it to. What are you doing here? She looked at him with those green eyes that used to know all his secrets. I need to talk to you. It's important. Behind them, people were taking pictures and asking each other who the blonde woman was. Sarah quietly asked the security guards to give them more space. This conversation needed to happen without the whole world watching. Elon gestured toward a quieter area behind the main stage, where there were some folding chairs and a small tent that blocked them from most of the crowd. As they walked, Justine clutched the small wrapped box tighter against her chest. "Is it about Vivian?" Elon asked when they sat down. He still had trouble with the name change, but he was trying harder now. "Did something happen to her?" "Partly," Justine said, setting the box carefully on her lap. "But mostly it's about Nevada." Elon's whole body went stiff, like someone had poured cement into his bones. His hands gripped the sides of his chair so tight that his knuckles turned white. "Justine, please," he said, his voice getting quieter. "Not here. Not today. This was supposed to be about the future, about Mars, about good things." "When then?" she asked. And there was 17 years of sadness in those two words. "It's been 17 years, Elon. 17 years since we lost him, and you've never once talked about it with the other kids. They don't need to carry that pain," Elon said, the same words he had said in the lawyer's office all those years ago. "They're happy. They're successful. They don't need to know about things that will just make them sad." Justine shook her head. "But they do carry it, Elon. They carry it because they know something is missing from our family story. They carry it because they see how you get quiet and strange every New Year's Day. They carry it because there are no baby pictures in your house from before Griffin and Vivian were born." Elon looked away from her, staring at the rocket in the distance. That beautiful silver rocket that was going to take humans to Mars. That rocket that represented everything he believed in. Moving forward, building the future, never looking back at things that couldn't be changed. But Justine kept talking. "Griffin asked me last month why you get so quiet every New Year's Day," she said. "He said you always find some excuse to work late that day. Like you're avoiding something. Saxon wants to know why you don't have any pictures of babies in your house. He sees pictures of all of them as toddlers, but nothing earlier." Elon's chest felt tight, like there wasn't enough air in his lungs. "What did you tell them?" "I told them to ask you," Justine said, "but they're afraid to ask you because they can tell it makes you upset when they try." The sounds of the crowd celebrating in the distance seemed very far away now. Elon could hear his own heartbeat in his ears, fast and scared like a bird trying to escape from a cage. "What's in the box?" he asked, looking at the small wrapped package in her hands. Justine's eyes filled with tears. But she didn't let them fall. "Something Nevada would have wanted his brothers to have. Something I should have given them years ago. But I was waiting for you to be ready to remember him." Her voice got softer. "Something I made for them because I couldn't bear the thought of them never knowing how much their big brother would have loved them." Elon's hands started shaking. Not just a little bit, but really shaking. Like he was cold even though it was hot outside. He had spent so many years building walls around the memory of Nevada. Walls made of work and success and plans for the future. Walls that kept the sadness out but also kept the love locked away. "I can't," he whispered, and his voice sounded like a little boy who was scared of the dark. "I'm sorry, Justine. I just can't." He started to stand up, started to walk away the same way he had walked away from Nevada's memory for 17 years. But Justine's voice stopped him. "He wrote you letters, Elon." Elon froze with one foot still on the ground and one foot in the air, like a statue of a man running away. "Our 10-week-old babies somehow left us letters," Justine continued, her voice getting stronger. "Letters for each of his brothers. Letters that tell them how proud he is of them, how much he loves them, how he's been watching over them all these years." Elon turned around slowly. His face was white as paper and his eyes were wide with confusion and something that looked like hope and fear mixed together. "What do you mean letters?" he asked. Justine stood up too, holding the box like it was the most precious thing in the world. "I mean that even though Nevada never got to grow up and learn to write," she said, "I wrote letters for him. Letters that say all the things I think he would want to tell his little brothers if he could. Letters that have been waiting for 17 years to be delivered." Elon stared at her like she had just told him that gravity worked backwards or that the sun was really made of cheese. "And there's one more letter," Justine said quietly. "One that took me 15 years to write because I didn't know if I'd ever be brave enough to give it to you." She reached into the box and pulled out an envelope that was different from the others. This one was cream-colored instead of white, and it had one word written on the front in beautiful handwriting, Dad. This one, she said, holding it out toward him, is from Nevada to you. Elon stared at the envelope like it might burst into flames if he touched it. His mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. Finally, he managed to whisper, "What do you mean, letters?" Justine sat back down on the folding chair and patted the seat next to her. "Sit with me," she said gently. "Let me show you." Elon's legs felt wobbly, like a newborn deer trying to walk for the first time. He sat down slowly, his eyes never leaving the box in Justine's hands. She opened the small wrapped package carefully, like she was opening a treasure chest. Inside were 6 tiny envelopes, each one a different color. 5 of them had names written in beautiful script: Griffin, Vivian, Damien, Saxon, and Kai. The 6th one, cream-colored and slightly larger, said Dad. "I wrote them," Justine said quietly, her fingers tracing the edge of Griffin's envelope. "After Nevada died, I couldn't sleep for months. Every night I would lie in bed thinking about all the things he would never get to say to his little brothers." Elon's hands were still shaking, but he was only 10 weeks old. Justine. He couldn't even hold his head up by himself. "I know," she said, "but babies know things, Elon. They know love. They know family. And I believe that somehow, somewhere, Nevada knows about his brothers. So I wrote down what I think he would want to tell them." She picked up the light blue envelope marked Griffin. "This one is for Griffin's 18th birthday. I wrote it when he was 6 years old, right after our divorce." Her voice got softer as she explained. "Nevada tells Griffin how proud he is that Griffin wants to study science, just like his dad. How he hopes Griffin will look up at the stars sometimes and remember that he has a big brother watching over him from somewhere beyond those stars." Elon covered his face with his hands. His shoulders started shaking, and Justine could tell he was trying very hard not to cry. "This one," she continued, holding up a green envelope, "is for Saxon. Nevada tells him that being in the middle of 5 boys is hard sometimes, but that middle children often become the peacemakers in families. He says Saxon has the kindest heart of all the brothers, and that his photographs help people see beauty in the world." "Justine, stop," Elon whispered through his fingers. "I can't do this." But she kept going, because 17 years of silence needed to be broken. "And this one," she said, picking up a purple envelope, "was written for Xavier. But now I know it was really meant for Vivian all along." Elon looked up at that, his eyes red and wet. "Nevada tells her that being true to yourself takes more courage than building rockets or going to Mars," Justine said. "He says he's proud of her for being brave enough to live her truth, even when other people don't understand." Fresh tears ran down Elon's cheeks. He thought about Vivian, about how angry and hurt she had been when he couldn't accept her new name, about how she had cut him out of her life because he was too scared to let her be who she really was. "There are letters for Damien and Kai too," Justine said. "Damien's talks about how his sense of humor helps heal people's hearts when they're sad. Kai's talks about how his art makes the world more beautiful." She put all the colored envelopes back in the box except for the cream-colored one marked Dad. "I wanted to give these to the boys on their birthdays," she said. "But after our divorce, you made it very clear that Nevada wasn't part of our story anymore. You said the children didn't need to know about him. So I kept the letters, waiting for the right time." "Why now?" Elon asked, his voice hoarse from trying not to sob. "Why are you here today?" Justine looked out at the rocket standing tall in the distance. "Because today you talked about sending families to Mars. You talked about preserving humanity among the stars. But you forgot something important, Elon." She turned to face him directly. "Families aren't just the people who are alive. Families include the people we've lost too. The people who loved us and shaped us, even if they're not here anymore. Nevada is part of our family's story, and his brothers deserve to know that." Elon wiped his eyes with his sleeve, like a little boy who had scraped his knee. "But what if it makes them sad? What if knowing about Nevada hurts them? It might make them sad at first," Justine admitted. "But Elon, they're already hurting. They know something is missing from their family. They can feel the empty space where Nevada should be, even though they don't know what it is." She reached over and took his hand. It was the first time they had touched in years. When I told them about Nevada in those letters, I also told them about love, she said. About how precious and fragile life is. About how every moment with the people we care about is a gift. Those aren't sad lessons, Elon. Those are the most important lessons anyone can learn. Elon looked down at their joined hands. Justine's hand was warm and steady, while his was cold and trembling. "I'm scared," he whispered, so quietly she almost couldn't hear him. "I know," she said. "I've been scared too. For 17 years. She picked up the envelope marked Dad and held it out to him again. "There's one more letter," she said. "This one took me 15 years to write, because I didn't know if I would ever be brave enough to give it to you." Elon stared at the envelope but still didn't take it. "What does it say?" he asked. Justine smiled sadly. "Things that Nevada would want you to know. Things about forgiveness and love and letting go of guilt. Things about being the father he always knew you could be." She pressed the envelope into his hands. This time he didn't pull away. "But most importantly," she said, "it talks about a secret you've been carrying alone for too long." Elon's eyes went wide with shock and fear. "How do you?" he started to ask. "Because I know you," Justine said gently. "And I know that the night Nevada died, something happened that you never told me about. Something that's been eating at your heart ever since." Elon's face went completely white, like all the blood had suddenly drained out of his body. The envelope in his hands started shaking so hard that the paper made tiny rustling sounds. "I don't know what you mean," he said, but his voice sounded hollow and scared. Justine moved her chair closer to his. "Elon, we were married for 8 years. I know when you're hiding something. And for 17 years, every time someone mentions Nevada's name, you get this look in your eyes. Not just sad, guilty." "I'm not guilty of anything," Elon said quickly, but he couldn't look at her when he said it. "Then why can't you look at me?" Justine asked softly. "Why do your hands shake every New Year's Day? Why do you work 18 hours on Nevada's birthday instead of taking time to remember him?" Elon set the envelope down on the small table beside him and put his head in his hands. For a long moment, the only sounds were the distant cheers of the crowd and the wind blowing through the Texas grass. "You don't understand," he finally whispered. "Then help me understand," Justine said. "Tell me what happened that night." Elon was quiet for such a long time that Justine wondered if he was going to speak at all. When he finally lifted his head, his eyes were full of a pain so deep it made her chest hurt just looking at him. "The night Nevada died," he began, his voice barely louder than the wind. "I was awake with him around 3 in the morning. Do you remember? You were so tired from staying up with him for weeks. The doctor said you needed to sleep." Justine nodded. She remembered being so exhausted she could barely keep her eyes open. Nevada had been fussy for days, not sleeping well, crying more than usual. She had been taking care of him almost around the clock. "I took him to the nursery so you could rest," Elon continued. "He was so tiny in my arms, so light. I sat in the rocking chair we bought, the blue one with the soft cushions." Justine could picture it perfectly. That rocking chair had been Elon's idea. He said every baby deserved a throne fit for a prince. "Nevada was looking right at me," Elon said. His eyes were so dark and serious, like he was trying to tell me something important. So I started talking to him. "What did you say?" Justine asked gently. Elon's voice got even quieter. "I told him about space, about the stars, about all the places humans might go someday. I told him that maybe when he grew up, he could help me build rockets that would take people to Mars." Despite her sadness, Justine smiled a little. That was so like Elon, talking to a 10-week-old baby about space travel. But then Elon continued and his voice started shaking. "I told him something I had never said out loud before. Something I was ashamed of." Justine waited, her heart beating faster. "I told him that I was scared," Elon whispered. "Scared of being a father. Scared that I would mess it up like my father did with me. My dad was so cold, Justine. He never told me he loved me. He never hugged me when I cried. I was terrified that I would do the same thing to Nevada." Tears were falling down Elon's cheeks now. But he kept talking. "I told my tiny son that I didn't know how to love him the right way. I told him I was afraid I would fail him." Justine reached out and touched his arm. "Oh, Elon, that doesn't make you a bad father. That makes you honest. But that's not all, Elon said, shaking his head. Nevada was listening to me talk. He made this little sound, like he was trying to answer me. I leaned down close to hear him better. And I swear, Justine, I swear he whispered something that sounded like love. Justine's breath caught in her throat. Then he looked right into my eyes, Elon continued. And for just a second, I felt like he was telling me that everything would be okay. That I would figure out how to be a good father. That he believed in me. Elon wiped his nose with his sleeve. I put him back in his crib and stood there watching him sleep. He looked so peaceful, so perfect. For the first time since he was born, I felt hopeful. I thought maybe I could do this. Maybe I could be the dad he deserved. That's beautiful, Justine whispered. But when we found him the next morning, Elon's voice broke completely. When he was gone, I felt like it was my fault. What? Elon? No. SIDS isn't anyone's fault. You know that. My brain knows that, Elon said. But my heart has been telling me for 17 years that maybe Nevada gave up because I told him I was scared. Maybe he thought his father didn't want him. Maybe if I had been stronger, braver, more confident, he would have fought harder to stay with us. Justine felt like her heart was breaking all over again. But this time for Elon instead of for Nevada. So every time I looked at Griffin and Xavier, and later at the triplets, I remembered that conversation. Elon continued. I remembered admitting I was scared to be their father. I promised myself I would never be scared again. I would work harder, achieve more, become worthy of them. You are always worthy of them, Justine said firmly. Being scared doesn't make you a bad father, Elon. It makes you human. But there's more, Elon said quietly. Something else happened that night. Something I've never told anyone. Justine leaned closer. What? Elon looked up at the sky, where the first stars were starting to appear even though the sun hadn't set yet. After Nevada made that sound, the one that sounded like love, I felt something in that room, he said. Something I can't explain. What do you mean? I mean, I wasn't alone anymore, Elon said. I felt this presence, warm and peaceful. And I heard a voice, not with my ears, but somehow in my mind. It said, he will always be with you. Every rocket you build, every star you reach for, he will be there. Justine stared at him with wide eyes. That's why I became obsessed with Mars, Elon said. That's why I pushed so hard to get humans to the stars. Part of me has always believed that Nevada is out there somewhere, waiting for us. That maybe if we can reach far enough into space, we'll find him again. Justine sat in complete silence, staring at Elon with tears streaming down her face. In all their years together, through all their fights and sadness and joy, he had never told her this part of the story. You felt his presence? She whispered. Elon nodded slowly. I know it sounds crazy. I'm a scientist, Justine. I believe in facts and data and things you can prove. But that night in Nevada's nursery, I felt something that science can't explain. It doesn't sound crazy, Justine said softly. It sounds like love. Elon looked at her with surprise. You believe me? Of course I believe you. She reached over and took both his hands in hers. Elon, why didn't you ever tell me about this? We could have talked about it. We could have helped each other understand what it meant. Elon's shoulders sagged like he was carrying an invisible weight that had suddenly gotten heavier. Because I was afraid you would think I was losing my mind, he said. And because talking about it made it feel less real somehow. When I was working on rockets, when I was pushing toward Mars, I could feel Nevada close to me. But when I sat still and tried to grieve like a normal person, he felt gone. Justine squeezed his hands tighter. Is that why you never came to his grave with me? Elon nodded, fresh tears rolling down his cheeks. I was terrified that if I went there, if I saw his name carved in stone, the voice in my mind would go quiet forever. I was afraid I would lose the only connection to him that I had left. Oh, Elon, Justine said, her own voice breaking. You weren't losing your connection to him at his grave. You were just finding a different kind of connection. She let go of his hands and wiped her eyes. I felt him there too, you know. Not the same way you did, but I felt him. When I would sit by his headstone and tell him about his brothers, sometimes the wind would blow in a way that felt like he was listening. Sometimes I would find a white feather on his grave, even though there were no white birds around. Elon looked up at her with amazement. Really? Really, we were both feeling Nevada's love, Elon. We were just feeling it in different ways. They sat quietly for a moment, both thinking about all the years they had spent missing their son alone instead of together. There's something else I need to tell you, Elon said finally. Something about why I couldn't accept Vivian's transition. Justine waited patiently for him to find the words. When Xavier told me she wanted to become Vivian, the first thing I thought about was Nevada, Elon said. I thought about how I had failed as a father once before. I thought that if I couldn't even keep one son alive, maybe I was doing something wrong with the other children too. He paused and took a shaky breath. I was so scared that if I let Xavier change into Vivian, it meant I was failing again, that I wasn't strong enough or smart enough to guide my children the right way. But that's not what it meant at all, Justine said gently. I know that now, Elon said. But back then, all I could think about was Nevada. About how I had told him I was scared to be a father, and then he died. I kept wondering if being afraid somehow made me dangerous to my children. Justine shook her head firmly. Elon, being afraid made you careful. Being afraid made you try harder. Being afraid didn't hurt Nevada, and it didn't hurt any of your other children either. Then why couldn't I save him? Elon asked, his voice small and broken like a little boy's. Because some things can't be saved, Justine said. Some things happen that are nobody's fault. But that doesn't mean you failed. That doesn't mean you weren't a good father to Nevada for every single one of the 70 days he lived. Elon buried his face in his hands again. I miss him so much, Justine. Every single day for 17 years I have missed him. I know, she said. So have I. And I've been so angry, Elon continued. Angry at God, angry at the universe, angry at myself. I thought if I could just work hard enough, achieve enough, maybe I could earn the right to see him again someday. Justine stood up and walked over to where Elon was sitting. She put her arms around him the way she used to when they were married and he was upset about something at work. You don't have to earn the right to love your son, she whispered into his ear. You don't have to build rockets to Mars to prove you're worthy of being his father. You already are his father. You always have been. You always will be. Elon leaned into her hug and cried like he hadn't cried since the day Nevada died. All the tears he had been holding back for 17 years came pouring out at once. What if the other kids are angry with me? He asked through his tears. What if they hate me for keeping Nevada's secret for so long? They might be hurt at first, Justine said honestly. But Elon, our children are good kids. They have kind hearts. When they understand why you were scared, when they see how much you loved Nevada, they'll forgive you. How can you be so sure? Justine pulled back and looked him in the eyes. Because they're half you and half me, and we raised them to understand that love is more important than being perfect. She picked up the cream-colored envelope from the table and held it out to him again. Read Nevada's letter to you, she said. Let him tell you what I've been trying to tell you for 17 years. This time, Elon took the envelope, with steady hands. Are you ready? Justine asked. Elon looked at Nevada's name written in beautiful script on the front of the envelope. Then he looked at Justine, who had carried this secret burden with him for so long without even knowing it. I'm ready, he said. But just as he started to open the envelope, they heard voices calling their names. Mom? Dad? Are you back here? Griffin's voice carried across the evening air, followed by Saxon's laughter and Kai's excited chatter about the rocket. Elon and Justine looked at each other with wide eyes. All of them? Elon whispered. All of them. Justine confirmed. They came to see your rocket launch. Even Vivian. Elon's hands started shaking again. But this time it wasn't from fear. It was from hope and terror and love all mixed together. What do I do? He asked. You tell them the truth, Justine said. You tell them about their brother. The voices were getting closer. Elon could hear Griffin's deep voice, now almost as deep as his own. Saxon was talking excitedly about the camera equipment he had brought to film the rocket test. Kai was asking someone if they had brought extra drawing paper. And then he heard another voice that made his heart jump. Vivian's voice, softer and higher than he remembered, but definitely hers. I think I saw them go behind the stage, she was saying. Elon looked at Justine with panic in his eyes. I can't do this. Not all of them. At once. Not here. Yes, you can, Justine said firmly. She stood up and straightened her black dress. Elon, you've built rockets that go to space. You've created cars that drive themselves. You can tell your children about their brother. But what if I mess it up? What if I say the wrong thing? Justine reached over and touched his cheek gently. There are no wrong words when you're speaking from love. The footsteps were very close now. Through the gaps in the tent, Elon could see shadows moving toward them. Dad? Griffin called out. Sarah said you were back here. Is everything okay? Elon took a deep breath that seemed to fill his whole body. He stood up slowly, still holding Nevada's letter in his trembling hands. We're here, he called back, his voice stronger than he expected it to be. And then suddenly, they were all there. Griffin came around the corner first, tall and lean with Elon's dark hair and Justine's green eyes. Behind him came Saxon, carrying 2 cameras and grinning at everything around him. Kai bounced up beside them, his backpack full of art supplies bouncing with each step. Damien appeared next, making a joke about something that had the younger boys laughing. And finally, walking a little slower and more carefully than the others, came Vivian. Elon's breath caught when he saw her. She was beautiful in a way that was completely herself. Her hair longer now, her clothes chosen with careful thought, her face showing a peace that hadn't been there when she was trying to be Xavier. Hi, Dad, she said quietly, and Elon could hear 17 years of hurt in those 2 words, but also a tiny spark of hope. Hi, he said back, his voice rough with emotion. You came. Saxon said the rocket test was going to be historic, Vivian said with a small smile. I didn't want to miss history. For a moment, all 6 of them just stood there looking at each other. The boys seemed confused about why both their parents were there together, why Elon looked like he had been crying, why the air felt so heavy with unspoken words. Is everything okay? Griffin asked again, stepping closer to his father with concern on his face. Elon looked at Justine, who nodded encouragingly. Then he looked at each of his children. These 5 wonderful people who were half him and half the woman he had once loved completely. Sit down, he said softly. Please. All of you. The children exchanged glances, but did what their father asked. They sat in a circle on the grass, just like they used to do when they were little, and Elon would tell them bedtime stories about robots and spaceships and adventures on other planets. Elon sat down too, with Justine beside him. Nevada's letter was still in his hands, and he placed it carefully on the ground next to him. There's something I need to tell you, he began. Something I should have told you a long time ago. Kai, who was the youngest and most sensitive to other people's feelings, scooted closer to his father. Are you and Mom getting back together? He asked hopefully. No, sweetheart, Justine said gently, but we're here together because we need to talk to you about something important. About your family. Our family? Damien asked, looking around at all of them. What about our family? Elon's mouth felt dry, like he had been walking in the desert for days. But he made himself speak. You know that Griffin and Vivian are twins, he said slowly. And you 3 know you're triplets. But what you don't know is that you weren't always 5 children. The silence that followed was so complete that Elon could hear his own heartbeat. What do you mean? Saxon asked, his usual smile fading into confusion. Before Griffin and Vivian were born, Justine said, taking over when she saw Elon struggling. We had another baby, your oldest brother. Vivian sat up straighter. Another brother? His name was Nevada, Elon said. And saying the name out loud to his children felt like stepping into sunlight after 17 years in darkness. He was born on New Year's Day and where is he now? Kai asked in a small voice, though something in his eyes suggested he already knew the answer wouldn't be happy. He died when he was 10 weeks old, Elon said, his voice breaking on the words. It wasn't anyone's fault. Sometimes babies sometimes they have to go back to heaven sooner than we want them to. The circle of children went completely still. Griffin's mouth fell open. Saxon stopped fiddling with his camera. Damien wasn't smiling anymore. Kai's eyes filled with tears, and Vivian wrapped her arms around herself like she was trying to hold something together. He was beautiful, Justine said into the silence. Tiny and perfect, with dark hair like his father and the most serious little face, like he was thinking about important things all the time. "Why didn't you ever tell us?" Griffin asked, and his voice sounded older than his 23 years. "Why didn't we know we had another brother?" Elon looked down at his hands. This was the hardest part, explaining 17 years of silence and fear. "Because I was scared," he said simply. "I thought if I talked about Nevada, it would make all of you sad. I thought it was better to focus on the future instead of the past." "But he's not just the past," Vivian said suddenly, her voice stronger than it had been in years when talking to her father. "He's our brother. He's part of our family." Elon looked up at her, really looked at her, and saw wisdom in her eyes that reminded him of someone else. Someone who had lived for only 10 weeks but had somehow known important things about love. "You're absolutely right," he said. "He is part of our family. He always has been, and I'm sorry I was too afraid to let you know that." Justin reached into the small box and pulled out the 5 colorful envelopes. "Nevada wanted each of you to have something," she said. "I wrote these letters from him to you, imagining what he would want to say if he could." She handed each child their letter. Griffin's hands shook a little as he took his light blue envelope. Saxon stared at his green one like it might contain magic. Damien held his yellow envelope carefully. Kai clutched his orange letter against his chest, and Vivian took her purple envelope with tears already starting fall. "Can we read them now?" Griffin asked. "Of course," Justine said. "They've been waiting for you for a very long time." One by one, the children opened their letters. The only sounds were the gentle rustling of paper and the distant hum of people still celebrating the rocket test in the distance. Griffin opened his light blue envelope first. His eyes moved across the page slowly, and as he read, his expression changed from confusion to wonder to something that looked like peace. "He says he's proud that I want to study astrophysics," Griffin said, looking up at his parents with amazement. "How did you know that's what Nevada would say?" "Because that's what big brothers do," Justine said softly. "They cheer for their little brothers and sisters." Saxon opened his green envelope next. As he read, a smile spread across his face. Not his usual joking grin, but something deeper and more gentle. "He says I take the best pictures because I see the world through kind eyes," Saxon said. "And that making documentaries is important because stories help people understand each other better." He looked at his camera sitting beside him on the grass. "I want to make a documentary about our family now. About Nevada. Is that okay?" "That would be beautiful," Elon said, his voice thick with emotion. Damien's yellow letter made him laugh. Not a silly laugh, but a warm, happy sound. "He says my jokes help heal people's hearts when they're sad," Damien said. "And that laughter is one of the most important gifts anyone can give." Kai opened his orange envelope very carefully, like it was made of butterfly wings. When he read it, tears started falling down his cheeks, but he was smiling at the same time. "What does yours say, buddy?" Elon asked gently. Kai held up his letter, and at the bottom was a small drawing. A stick figure family with 6 people instead of 5. "He says art makes the world more beautiful," Kai whispered, "and that every time I draw something, I'm adding more beauty to the universe." Kai wiped his eyes with his sleeve. "I want to paint a picture of all of us together, all 6 of us, so Nevada can see what our whole family looks like." Finally, everyone turned to look at Vivian. She was holding her purple envelope but hadn't opened it yet. Her hands were shaking slightly. "I'm scared," she admitted quietly. "What if it says something about Xavier? What if Nevada wouldn't understand about me being Vivian now?" Elon felt his heart breaking all over again. "Sweetheart, Nevada would love you exactly as you are. Just like I should have done from the beginning." Vivian looked at her father with surprise. "You mean that?" "I mean that more than anything I've ever said in my life," Elon replied. "I'm sorry it took me so long to tell you." Vivian took a deep breath and opened her letter. As she read, her eyes got wider and wider. When she finished, she was crying. But they were happy tears. "What does it say?" Griffin asked gently. Vivian's voice was soft but strong. "It says that being true to yourself takes more courage than building rockets or going to Mars, and that he's proud of me for being brave enough to live my truth even when other people don't understand." She looked directly at Elon. "It says that love isn't about keeping people in boxes. Love is about letting them become who they're meant to be. Elon felt tears streaming down his face again. Nevada was right, he said. I'm proud of you too, Vivian. I'm sorry it took me so long to say it. For the first time in 2 years, Vivian stood up and walked over to her father. She knelt down beside him and wrapped her arms around him. I love you, Dad, she whispered. I love you too, Elon whispered back. Exactly as you are. The whole family sat together under the darkening Texas sky. Above them, the first stars were becoming visible, tiny points of light in the vast darkness. I wish we could have met him, Saxon said quietly. I wish Nevada could have grown up with us. Maybe he did grow up with us in a way. Justine said, maybe every time you were kind to each other, every time you helped each other, every time you showed love, Nevada was there. Kai looked up at the brightest star he could see. Is that him? Is Nevada up there? Maybe, Elon said, following his youngest son's gaze. I like to think so. Griffin stood up and brushed the grass off his jeans. He walked over to where Elon was sitting and looked down at him seriously. Dad, I want to ask you something, Griffin said. Something important. What is it? Griffin pointed at the massive rocket standing tall in the distance, silver and proud against the evening sky. That rocket that's gonna take people to Mars someday. Does it have a name yet? Elon shook his head. We've been calling it Starship Test Vehicle 7. Not very exciting. I have an idea, Griffin said. What if we called it Nevada? When people ask why, we can tell them it's named after our brother, who taught us that love is the most important force in the universe. Elon's breath caught in his throat. He looked around at all his children. These 5 incredible people who had just learned they were part of a family of 6. You would want that? He asked quietly. Yes. All 5 children said at the same time, and their voices together sounded like a choir. Vivian added, and when the first baby is born on Mars, I hope they name him Nevada too. That way our brother's name will live on a new planet. Damien grinned his biggest grin. And I'll write jokes for the astronauts to tell on Mars. Nevada would want them to laugh and be happy up there. Saxon picked up his camera. And I'll make that documentary about our family. I'll call it 6 stars, 1 for each of us. Kai clutched his art supplies. And I'll paint that family portrait and somehow get it inside the rocket. So Nevada can see all of us together when he travels to Mars. Griffin pulled out his phone and started typing. And I'm gonna study even harder in school. Maybe someday I can be one of the astronauts who takes Nevada to Mars myself. Elon looked around at his children, all of them, and felt something he hadn't felt in 17 years. He felt complete. We'll do all of those things, he promised. The rocket will be called Nevada. Kai's painting will go to Mars. Saxon will make his documentary. Damien will write jokes for the astronauts. And Griffin, if you want to be an astronaut, I'll do everything I can to help you get there. Justine stood up and brushed the grass off her dress. There's one more thing, she said. Every New Year's Day, Nevada's birthday, I visit his grave. I've been going alone for 17 years. Would you like to come with me this year? All of us? Vivian asked. All of us, Justine confirmed. As a family. Elon nodded, and for the first time since that terrible morning in 2002, he felt ready to say goodbye properly and hello again. Yes, he said. It's time. As they prepared to leave, Kai pointed up at the brightest star in the sky. That one right there, he said. That's Nevada, watching over us. And somehow, in the warm Texas evening, with his family finally whole around him, Elon believed it was true. The small hospital bracelet looked even tinier in Elon's large hands. It was faded yellow now, 17 years old, with blue letters that were hard to read, but he could still make out the words Baby Boy Musk and underneath, Nevada's birth weight 4 pounds 2 ounces. When we first named him Nevada, Justine said softly, you said it meant snow-covered in Spanish. You said he would be like fresh snow, clean and new and beautiful. I remember, Elon whispered, his thumb tracing over the tiny plastic band. I remember everything about those 10 weeks. The children gathered closer to see the bracelet. It was the first real thing they had ever held that had belonged to their brother. He was so small, Vivian said with wonder in her voice. The smallest of all of you, Justine said. But he had the biggest personality. He would stare at people like he was trying to figure out all the secrets of the universe. Griffin laughed softly. That sounds like a Musk baby. Take him with you, Justine said to Elon. When the first human mission goes to Mars, take Nevada's bracelet. Let him be part of the journey to the stars. Elon carefully put the bracelet in his shirt pocket, right over his heart. I will, he promised. Nevada will be the first Musk to go to Mars. But I want to do more than that, Griffin said, standing up and looking at the rocket in the distance. I want everyone to know about him. What do you mean? Elon asked. The Mars ship, Griffin said, his voice getting excited. We should really name it Nevada. Not just between us, officially. When people ask why it's called Nevada, we'll tell them it's named after the boy who taught his family that love is stronger than law. Saxon jumped up too, his camera in his hands. And I want to put Nevada's story in my documentary. Not just about our family, but about how love connects people across space and time. Damien grinned. And when the astronauts get to Mars, they'll need entertainment. I'll write a whole comedy show about brothers who love each other even when they live on different planets. Kai pulled his sketchbook out of his backpack. I'm gonna start the family painting tonight. All 6 of us together under the stars. And somehow I'm gonna get it inside that rocket. Elon looked at Justine with amazement. How did you know, he asked. How did you know that telling them about Nevada would bring them together instead of making them sad? Because I know our children, Justine said. They have your curiosity and your drive to explore. But they also have hearts that understand love doesn't end when someone dies. Vivian walked over to where her father was sitting. Dad, can I ask you something? Anything, Elon said. In Nevada's letter to me, it said that being true to yourself takes more courage than going to Mars. Did you really tell Mom that when I was Xavier? Elon shook his head. No, sweetheart, that wisdom came from Nevada through your mother's heart. But you know what? It's completely true. What you did, becoming who you really are, that took more bravery than anything I've ever done. Even building rockets? Even building rockets, Elon confirmed. Rockets are just metal and fuel. But becoming your true self? That's pure courage. Vivian smiled. The first real, full smile Elon had seen from her in years. I want to write something too. About Nevada. About how he helped me understand that families can love each other in ways that cross between worlds. That would be beautiful, Justine said. Saxon looked at his watch. Dad, what time is the rocket test tomorrow? 10 in the morning, Elon replied. Why? Because I want to film it, Saxon said. I want to capture the moment when the Nevada starts its first journey toward the stars. Even if it's just a test flight. Griffin pulled his phone out again and started typing rapidly. I'm changing my major, he announced. To what? Elon asked. Aerospace engineering with a focus on Mars mission planning, Griffin said without looking up from his phone. If Nevada is going to Mars, I want to help get him there. Damien laughed. Look at us. An hour ago, we didn't even know we had another brother. Now we're all planning his trip to Mars. That's what families do, Justine said. They take care of each other even when it seems impossible. Kai had been drawing while everyone talked. He held up his sketchbook to show them a picture of 6 stick figures standing under a rocket ship. Above the rocket he had drawn stars, and one of the stars had a halo around it. This is us, Kai said, and that star with the halo is Nevada, watching us get ready to bring him to Mars. Elon felt his chest get tight with emotion again, but this time it was good emotion, happy emotion, complete emotion. You know what, he said, standing up and looking at each of his children. Tomorrow isn't just a rocket test. Tomorrow is the day we officially announce that our Mars mission is dedicated to Nevada Alexander Musk. Tomorrow is the day we tell the world that love really can reach across space and time. Will you tell them the whole story? Vivian asked. Elon thought about it for a moment. I'll tell them enough. I'll tell them that Nevada lived for 10 weeks in 2002. And that every rocket we build carries his memory. I'll tell them that families include the people we love who live in our hearts, not just the people we can see with our eyes. Saxon raised his camera. Can I film that speech? You can film everything, Elon said. Nevada's story should be told. Justine stood up and brushed the grass off her dress one more time. There's something else, she said. Something I haven't told you yet. The family looked at her with curiosity. For 17 years I've been putting flowers on Nevada's grave every New Year's Day, she said. White flowers, because that was the color of his nursery. But this year I want to do something different. What? Kai asked. I want to bring a small model rocket, Justine said. Something we can leave at his grave to show him that his journey to the stars is just beginning. Griffin grinned. I know where we can get one of those. As they prepared to leave the quiet area behind the stage, Elon realized that something had changed in him. For 17 years, he had carried Nevada's memory like a heavy weight. But now, surrounded by all his children, he felt like Nevada's memory had become wings instead. Are you ready to go back to the celebration? Justine asked. Elon looked at the rocket in the distance, the rocket that would soon be officially named Nevada. He looked at his 5 living children, who were already making plans to honor the brother they had never met. He thought about the tiny bracelet in his shirt pocket, and the long journey it would take to Mars. Yes, he said, I think Nevada would want us to celebrate. As they walked back toward the crowd, Kai slipped his small hand into Elon's large one. Dad? Kai said, I'm glad you told us about Nevada. Me too, buddy, Elon said. Me too. Behind them, the stars grew brighter in the Texas sky, and somewhere among them a 10-week-old boy who had lived just long enough to teach his family about love watched over the rocket that would carry his name to Mars. 3 months later, June 21st, the sun was just coming up over Boca Chica, as thousands of people gathered for the most important rocket launch in SpaceX's history. But this time, it wasn't just about going to Mars. This time it was about taking love to the stars. The rocket stood tall and beautiful against the morning sky, but it looked different now. Painted on its silver side in bold blue letters was one word, Innovata. Elon stood on the launch platform with his family around him. All 6 of them. Because they had learned that families include everyone you love, whether you can see them or not. Griffin wore his new aerospace engineering student badge from MIT. He had transferred schools and changed his major, determined to be part of the team that would someday take Nevada's bracelet to Mars. Saxon had his best camera ready, documenting everything for the film he was making. 6 Stars, A Family's Journey to Mars, was already being talked about by movie studios who wanted to share Nevada's story with the world. Damien had written jokes for the astronauts, just like he promised. They were tucked inside the rocket's storage compartment, waiting to make people laugh on Mars. Kai's painting was there too. A beautiful picture of 6 figures holding hands under a starry sky. The rocket would carry it to space as a symbol of love that crosses any distance. And Vivian stood next to her father, no longer afraid to be herself, no longer cut off from her family. She had written a poem about Nevada that would be read on Mars when the first permanent colony was established. Are you nervous? Justine asked Elon, as they watched the final preparations. Elon touched the pocket over his heart, where Nevada's tiny hospital bracelet waited for its journey to the stars. No, he said. For the first time in 17 years, I'm not nervous. I'm ready. The countdown began. T-minus 60 seconds, came the voice over the loudspeaker. Elon thought about that night in Nevada's nursery, when he had held his tiny son and talked about space and stars and the future. He thought about the voice he had heard. He will always be with you. Every rocket you build, every star you reach for, he will be there. T-minus 30 seconds. Griffin grabbed his father's hand. Saxon kept filming. Damien stopped telling jokes and got serious for once. Kai held up his sketchbook, ready to draw the moment Nevada began his journey to Mars. Vivian stood close to Justine, both of them crying happy tears. T-minus 10 seconds. The family held their breath together. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Launch. The rocket lifted off with a roar that shook the ground and filled the sky with light and power. It climbed higher and higher, carrying Nevada's name and his family's love toward the stars. As they watched the rocket disappear into the blue morning sky, Elon felt something he had been waiting 17 years to feel. He felt Nevada's presence again. Not in the quiet of a nursery this time, but in the joy and excitement and love of his whole family. He's really going to Mars, Kai whispered, his eyes following the rocket's trail of white clouds. He's already there, Justine said softly. He's been waiting for us to catch up. 6 months later, the rocket completed its test mission perfectly. The Nevada had proven that it could carry humans safely to Mars. NASA approved SpaceX's plan for the first human colony mission, and 2 years after that, on a cold January morning in 2027, The Nevada launched again, this time carrying 36 colonists to Mars. In the cargo hold, carefully protected in a special container, was Nevada's hospital bracelet. When the colonists landed on Mars and took their first steps on the red planet, they carried a small American flag and one other thing: a tiny bracelet that read Baby Boy Musk, 4 pounds, 2 ounces. Griffin Musk, now a certified aerospace engineer, was part of Mission Control that day. Saxon filmed everything for his documentary, which won 3 Academy Awards. Damien's jokes were the first comedy performed on Mars, making the colonists laugh as they built their new home. Kai's painting hung in the main habitat, reminding everyone that families stay connected across any distance. And Vivian's poem was carved into the cornerstone of Mars Colony 1. But the most important moment happened when the mission commander, following instructions from Earth, carefully placed Nevada's bracelet in the soil of Mars and said the words that Elon had written: "Nevada Alexander Musk, you are the first member of your family to reach Mars. Your brothers and sisters sent you here with all their love. Welcome home." Back on Earth, sitting in a cemetery in Beverly Hills, 6 people held hands around a small white grave train. They had come there every New Year's Day since that night in Texas, when they first learned about their brother. "Happy birthday, Nevada," they said together. "You made it to Mars." And in the soil of a distant red planet, a tiny hospital bracelet caught the light of an alien sun, carrying the love of a family that had learned the most important lesson of all: love doesn't end when someone dies. Love travels to the stars. 3 years later, the first baby was born on Mars Colony 1. Her parents, who had heard Nevada's story from the other colonists, named her Nevada Rose Johnson. The name Nevada would live on Mars forever, just like Vivian had dreamed. And back on Earth, whenever the Musk family looked up at the red planet glowing in the night sky, they knew their brother was there, watching over the future of humanity among the stars. Some promises take longer than others to keep. But the best promises, the ones made from love, are always worth the wait. On Mars, in a place where no human had ever lived before, a 10-week-old boy's name was written in the history books as humanity's first bridge between worlds. Nevada Alexander Musk, the baby who taught his family that love is the force that carries us to the stars. We'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment below and tell us what city or country you're in. It's amazing how stories can connect hearts around the world. If this story touched your heart the way it touched ours, please hit that like button. It really helps us know which stories mean the most to you. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming stories that remind us what truly matters in life. Most importantly, share this video with your friends and family. In a world that can sometimes feel divided, stories like Nevada's remind us that love is the force that connects us all. Whether someone is right next to us or watching from the stars, the bonds of family and kindness are stronger than any distance. Until our next story together, remember, every act of love you share today might just change someone's tomorrow. Keep spreading kindness, and we'll see you in the next video.